Get Pucked. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Get Pucked podcast. Vito, Matt, and Dave here. How you guys doing?
Good. You?
Good. Yeah. It's a good week. In case you don't know, I'm sure everybody who listens to us does, but in case you don't, there's something special happening this Friday. It is trade deadline. And so this has been it. This has been pretty much the talk for the past couple of weeks for sure, maybe even a few months. What are they going to do at the trade deadline? They're not playoff contenders. So what's happening? And there's been a lot of talk out there, a lot of speculation, a lot of mock trades. So we're going to talk about it, boys. I think that's what we're going to talk about today. I know it's a shocker. Us and every other Canadians and every other team's podcasts that are out there are all going to talk about the same stuff. But you know what? That's just what it is. So we're going to dive into it. But first thing I did want to talk about right before we get to that, this is a little bit more in the future. And not a focal point of the team, but I am curious nonetheless. Somebody said, free Jesse Ylonen. And I thought that was hilarious when I saw it. And I wanted to ask you guys a question. Because in my estimation, Jesse Ylonen right now is terribly miscast on the fourth line. Granted, he doesn't have a spot in the top six on this team. And he's going to be RFA. So what do you do with him? Are you guys going to qualify him if you were running the show? Or thanks for your service and good luck to you, and we hope something works out for you somewhere else, but it ain't going to be here. Davide?
I mean, man, one of those guys who showed a little bit of promise in Laval, and you thought maybe he'd turn into something. Didn't really get a chance. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, it's not as if they
yes.
But the thing is that even if you're on the fourth line and you're miscast on these roles in third line, like, the cream rises to the crop. The cream rises to the crop. Whatever the heck that expression is, all right?
It's the cream of the crop, or the cream rises to the top.
Rises to the top. Yeah. Sorry, I got. I'm on a little sleep here, okay? But people find a way to make it work. A lot of guys start on the third line, fourth line, and they make it work. They work their way up to the first line, and he just hasn't, for whatever reason, been able to do so. And so he doesn't really stand out. I think he has something like, I don't know, 4 goals, 3 goals. I don't know how many goals he has, but
not a lot of goals.
Not a lot of goals. Not even a lot of points. No. Not as if he's racking up assists either. Not very noticeable. I mean, to me, one of those guys that for now, whether he stays or goes and plays a depth role, I mean, I'm fine on moving on from Jesse Ylonen, which is sad because he showed that promise in Laval, and he's one of those guys I think that will be better suited in Laval.
Fair. I think very fair.
So while Dave fixes his mic, because I think it's rubbing on his shirt or something there. Listen, he's a guy that he shouldn't be playing a fourth line role based on his skill set and based on his size and frame. He should be somewhere in your top 9. Ideally, he'd be somebody that you fix on your top 6. But who's really going to fit him as even a second line right or left winger? It's just he doesn't. Like, I wouldn't give up one of my top 6 spots for Jesse Ylonen, but could I see his upside and potential as maybe being somebody on the third line, putting up some offense, leveraging his shot, and potting in a few goals here and there? I could see that for him. I just don't see it with the Montreal Canadiens because he's lost his place here. There's other players that are coming in the pipeline that are going to eventually take his place too, and it's just where do you put Jesse Ylonen at that point? He might be somebody that I could see that they put in as a piece to give him a change of scenery, give him an opportunity elsewhere, and include him in a package deal somewhere, and he goes somewhere else and he gives it a shot somewhere else. Even if you try to do a 1-for-1 deal to change the scenery, you're not going to get much for him at this stage.
Oh, there's no trade happening for him. It's really a question of, are they going to qualify him? And I think where you're both leading to is no. You don't think they would do it?
I think they would qualify him, maybe a 1-year league minimum type of deal. Maybe a little bump in salary just to give him another chance. But I don't know if Jesse Ylonen is going to want to sign that. He may want to go elsewhere, and at that point they'll just let him walk, and it'll be an asset that the Montreal Canadiens lose. But it's not it's not something that we're going to lose sleep over. To Dave's point, it just sucks because you saw what his shot was capable. You saw that he could have been somebody that could have potentially provided some secondary scoring, and it just hasn't materialized. I also find he doesn't use his shot enough. So maybe that could be something. But I think he might be an additional piece in a
disagree
trade
with you.
package of something.
I got to disagree with you. I don't think Jesse Ylonen is the end all be all by any stretch of the imagination, but I think there's enough potential still there that hasn't been tapped into, and that if you give him a full-time position on the third line, a skilled third line, not a grinding kind of line, a more skilled based third line, and you get a solid third line, a third line center that goes there that can maybe make something happen. Yelonen's got a really good shot. I think there's something there that can be done. Yeah. I would like to see him come back. I'd like to see it on a good deal. Again, like to what you were saying, Vito, I mean, yeah, okay. Does he really think he's going to be worth a lot more given what he looks like? He must have agents that tell him this is what you look like. This is what your value is. You don't want to re-sign here if they offer you a 2-year deal, a 1.1 or whatever it's going to be, something low. You're not going to get much more elsewhere, but good luck to you.
The thing is,
I would want him back.
I think he would be slotted on the third line in Montreal if there wasn't a Gallagher or a Josh Anderson occupying those spots right now. That's the problem. It's are you going to play Jesse Ylonen over those guys? I would say you played him over Brendan Gallagher because it's Brendan Gallagher struggling, giving some days where he's resting and whatever. But that's the problem right now is when you look at the right side of the Montreal Canadiens and Jesse Ylonen is a right-handed shot. He's automatically put on the fourth line, but between you and I, he should be ahead of Brendan Gallagher at least from an outside perspective.
When Gallagher taps into that Gallagher of a couple of years ago, he does that every other game, and like you all of a sudden see the Gallagher pass and you see what's going on. You're like, oh, there's a little bit more in the tank. I don't think that that's going to persist much longer moving forward. I think you're going to get a lot more games of the now over the hill Gally, which is upsetting, to see, unfortunately. But it is what it is. It's reality. And I don't think it would be wise to give up on the kid yet. Again, I don't think he's going to be a top 6 guy. I don't think he's not going to really find the next gear. I don't believe personally. If he does, all the better for it, but I don't see it. But I could definitely see this guy being a skilled player that you could put on a third line on a really good deal, and you know what you're getting out of him. And I see a lot of people kind of the same mindset a little bit. They want to see him off that fourth line. It's a terrible miscast. He doesn't get the minutes. It makes no sense to being there. That's a line where you got guys like Pizzetta, for example, where they should go. And it seems like he's actually swapping in and out with Pizzetta, which is odd. But,
But I think even when you're looking at Ylonen's numbers this year, he regressed. His numbers are lower than last year, and it would probably be in his best interest to actually sign a 1-year deal just to see if he can prove
his numbers are down because they don't play him, and he's on the fourth line.
He's got to have that conversation saying, where are you going to put me next year if he's going to stay in Montreal for another year? If it's going to be a bouncing around between eating hot dogs and and the fourth line, then no, you got to move on from him.
I agree. Okay. That was my little one thing about Ylonen because I saw it. I would just want to see what you thought about it. And you guys pretty much answered as expected. Let's talk about
deadline. The trade
deadline. Here we go. We're going into it now. Calm yourself.
Jeez.
We're going to start with one of the most sought-after assets on the team. All right? I want to know Jake Evans. There's word out there that a lot of teams are interested.
Sure.
And I'm curious, given what's coming, I happen to like Jake Evans, but given what's coming up the pipeline, and given that Jake Evans is a fourth-line center, let's be real. Jake Evans, if you are able to trade Jake Evans and a team comes and says, we want him, we'll take the full pop of his salary, obviously. It's not huge. We're going to take it all. We're going to give you a fifth. Is it worth doing?
Sure. I mean, a fifth, maybe not. But I mean,
fifth.
Look, at the end of the day, man, Jake Evans, another guy who's just like, you can live with Jake Evans, you can live without Jake Evans at the end of the day. And I think that you can overvalue it. He's an asset for sure that you can move, but I wouldn't be, too sad to see him go. There's a lot of guys in the process in the pipeline, as you said, that could fill that role. I think ideally maybe the Canadiens for a little bit of consistency wise, but that's another guy who just didn't take the next step. Guy has 20 points this year. and I think 5 of them are in the last 3 games. You know what I mean? Like it's like
however they come in.
It's just like it's another guy who like you expected more, and it's another warning again to like so much overhype of these guys, and he's a 4th line guy, and I don't think anybody ever argued. Some people were arguing he could eventually become a 3rd line center, but is he like a wow 4th line center? Anyways, not really, and that's so. Again,
he's a pretty good 4th line center. I think he's a pretty good 4th line center.
I mean, okay, sure. On one of the worst teams in the league, he's a pretty good 4th line center.
But he does his role well, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, like you said, people like he didn't take. Where did you think that his ceiling was? Like at one,
I didn't think his ceiling. I always thought it was going to be a 4th line center. I don't think there was anything more. I saw Jake Evans play, and I thought, okay, this is what he is. And I think a lot of people got overexcited about him, and they got emotional with him when he got hit in the playoffs. You know what I mean? And people fell in love with Jake Evans, and I get it. But at the end of the day, there's a trade deadline. Really? I think a lot of people like Jake Evans. I think a lot of people like Jake Evans. He became a fan favorite. I think it's fair to say a little bit of a fan favorite.
People like him. Love might be a strong word.
Yeah.
If he gets traded, are you going to see like the collective fan base have tears in their eyes? Probably not.
No.
But yeah, I think he's well liked. To the question point though, like you wouldn't do it for a 5th.
Man, I probably would. To be honest, it depends on what's coming up, like how comfortable I am, because I'm not moving an asset for the sake of moving an asset. You know what I mean? If they have another plan for the 4th line center and they see someone else filling that role next season, then fine, move them. But just moving him for the sake of moving him, then now you have a question mark in the 4th line center next year, and it doesn't work out. Then no, don't trade him for a 5th round pick. 5th round pick, who cares? You know what I mean? But if he's not in your plans, get rid of him. Eventually, guys have to move for other guys to take their spots, and that's the problem. Is you hang on to these guys, it's too long, and then their trade value becomes nothing because they continue not playing well. Just like Josh Anderson could have been moved for a 1st round pick apparently last year, and no, we're holding on. Allegedly from Ken Hughes' mouth is that everyone's calling him for Josh Anderson.
Double alleged then.
And you hold on to it, and you hold on to it, and you hold on to it, which is fine because you didn't get your price. Eventually, you become stuck with them. Eventually, it stops other people from growing into their games, and so it's not just the what are you going to get for these guys? It's the spot that they free up that counts. And I think that we've seen what Jake Evans is going to be. And if as an organization you look at what's coming and you say, yeah, this makes sense to maybe give this guy a try over Jake Evans, then I'm fine with moving him. But I'm not moving him for the sake of moving him either. He's an NHL player at this point. He's a guy who's serviceable. Keep him until he's not part of your plans.
Okay. Jake Evans not being moved this trade deadline, according to Dave. Vito?
Well, I don't know if I said that. I mean, it depends on what their plans.
But it seems like that's what's being floated. Because again, I was being a little bit tongue in cheek. It looks like Jake Evans' name is out there, and teams are looking for this kind of guy for a 4th line.
But you know how those rumors start.
Yeah, apparently he's also looking for a 2nd or 3rd round pick.
But guys, it's very much possible this came from the Canadiens. They do want to move him. It didn't come from nowhere, right? Why do people all of a sudden are circling on Jake Evans? It's either because Ken Hughes picked up the phone and said, hey, Jake Evans, who wants Jake Evans? Or he put it out. We know that he's a player agent.
Dave
we know he has
talking about the trade craft of the trading that happens here. I'm just here to throw out what's in the universe. But I don't know where it came from. If it was a story planted by the Habs or not.
It doesn't just materialize, right? Like they're not in the business of just coming up with random rumors. Some people are, but those don't come to traction, don't get any traction, and they don't come to
Very true. So, and I think teams are not going to overpay for a guy like that. To be fair, too, he might want a 2nd round pick for Jake Evans. I don't think teams are going to go because he's even got. Yeah, I don't see it. But point is, okay, Dave's a no on a 5th. There's no reason to, according to Dave.
No, but I think there is. But what I'm saying is I think that the Canadiens have a plan in place, and I think they're ready to move on from Jake Evans. So I could see it happening. That's
so if he moves him for a 5th, it's because, in your estimation,
they're done with
for sure someone's coming in to take that spot. Colin White moves up one, and they're going to bring someone else up to play for.
Yeah. Okay. First off, right now, if they were to trade Jake Evans, who's playing center for the Montreal Canadiens? It's going to be Suzuki and Colin White. There's nobody left. Oh. Who are we call? We're going to call up Elias Anderson, maybe, which is, he deserves it a little bit. But either way, there's nobody to play center today if they move Jake Evans. But Jake Evans, it's to Dave's point, like he said it well. I wouldn't lose sleep if they move him. I like him, but at the end of the day, he's an asset that's been here. He's been a very honest player. I think he definitely got his contract at the time of 1.7 million because he was on a 30+ point pace. That was a good season. Then a couple of concussions happened. And that kind of changed his game a bit. I think he's starting to find his groove again. But I think it's a means to an end with him because Owen Beck's probably going to take his spot. And Owen Beck looks like he's going to even be the 3C at some point in the near future. I see him there.
Oh boy.
Okay, I'm calling it. He's going to potentially be 3C with John Mason eventually.
Okay.
But so
Christian Dvorak's going to play 4C then. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Christian who?
Christian Dvorak, who's still on the team.
He's going to be hurt. He'll get hurt again.
Go ahead.
So when I look at it, if they move Jake Evans and they get a good return that's something above a 5th round pick, then sure. Like, who's going to pay a 5th round? Nobody. But it's like, what are you going to get for Jake Evans at this point? Yes, okay. Some teams might look at him and he's versatile. You can move up and down between 3 and 4C and all that, and sometimes even put him on the wing, and he stays as a solid, honest bottom pair. He's got some playoff experience as well, but I don't know. Who's going to play center? You can't just grab a bunch of wingers and say, "Hey, play center for the rest of the season." So the pro tankers are going to be like, "Yeah, do it." But
so you wouldn't move him for a 5th?
I don't move him this trade deadline. If there's something in the offseason, go for it.
Unless you're eating a contract from somebody on another deal, and it includes like a veteran or on a big.
That's fair.
That's the way to do it. Maybe that's what they're looking at. Who knows?
Because to
me, by doing that, it bumps up the pick a little bit. That I can see something.
Yeah, something like that would make a little bit more sense. I think for a 1-for-1, moving Jake Evans to a team for a late pick, to me, I don't like it because you get really basically nothing in return. You're dumping the contract. To Vito's point, you don't really have somebody coming in. I don't think they want to poach from Laval right now with where they're going with the whole playoff push thing. So you don't want to fill a void that way. And what are you doing a favor for to another team? You're just giving them Jake Evans, a serviceable 4th line center. You're just giving it to them. Enjoy. Good luck to you.
Can't play in the 3rd.
Who could every now and then move up for a shift or two and play a 3rd? I wouldn't want to do it. I wouldn't want to see that happen. You start talking to me in the realm of, for an insane reason, you start talking about a 2nd. Well, we're having a very nice conversation, but I don't see a team doing that either to that point. And so
he's going to pay a 2nd.
Exactly my point. But let's talk about the other guys on the team and what the expectations are for this trade deadline. I have 2 ways that we could do this, gentlemen. You tell me what you want to do. I got a bunch of names I'm going to throw at you. You can just straight up tell me what is the minimum it would take for you to pull the trigger on that deal. Or I give you a trade package and you tell me it is way too low, way too high, or it's fair.
Anyway, I can mock you, Matt. I'm going to pick that one. So
these are pulled from what I found. Let it be known, not from my brain. Okay, I'm throwing what's out there, which had a little bit of traction all over the place.
From what you found, like random Twitter accounts or like reputable people?
You know what? I'm everywhere.
Well, nobody's
a little bit everywhere.
No reputable sources giving you a trade package. Like
no. This is pulled. I'll preface this by saying this has been pulled by the fandom.
Yeah.
Wherever the fandom speaks, I'm there, and I've taken a little bit of that's interesting. That's hilarious, and I'm putting it there, and we're seeing.
Okay,
I can give you those, or I can say, tell me what is the minimum that you would do it for.
No, I want that you give us the prices.
Yeah, now my curiosity is piqued now.
Okay, I'll give you the price. Okay, here we go. Number 1, Jordan Harris. Would you move him?
Yes.
For a late 2nd.
100%.
Is it too high, fair, or too low?
I'll pack his bags.
So you think it's too high of a return?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
a late 2nd round pick.
A late 2nd round pick for Jordan Harris.
Yeah, I would move him. He's barely making it onto our roster because we have too many defensemen at this point. Now, does that depreciate his value? Do other teams maybe look at him as a better piece? Maybe, but it's a 2nd round pick. I'll take a 2nd round pick for Jordan Harris. 100%.
Yeah. Isn't it funny? Like, it just like go back a year ago how like high everyone was on Jordan Harris and it's like the danger kind of, and I feel as though like every Habs fan just falls into this trap continuously. Justin Barron's going to be, and then it's like Jordan Harris, and then it's like who's coming next? Norlander was for a while. Oh, the next big, and it's
Hold
just
on.
like everyone is
Justin
high
Barron-
value prospect.
Yeah, but Dave, Justin Barron's a former first round pick. Harris is a third, like
Okay, I get it.
71st?
I understand, but he came in highly touted. Did he not? Did not everyone say like, "Oh man"?
Oh,
his
there was
defense is-"
yes, and there was the whole Kent
Don't make
Hughes
me-
connection.
Don't make
He's
me
smart.
go out and find a time where people were excited about Jordan Harris.
He's a smart hockey player. He is, but we have too many Jordan Harris types or
I
better.
understand,
on
but
the
at the
roster.
time, everyone was excited, and I'm saying that it's a word of caution for the next wave of prospects that are coming up soon. That just be patient a little bit and don't overvalue, don't undervalue. Just watch and enjoy. It's okay to be
Dave's
excited.
little PSA aside
Okay?
here.
Yes.
Okay.
Jordan Harris, I think a second round. If I'm a team, I wouldn't pay a second round pick for Jordan Harris, but I could see a team doing it. I could see a team that's desperate for a little bit of defensive depth that could use an NHL body that going for a playoff run, and I could see it happening. Or conversely, someone who's very weak on defense, don't have much in the pipeline, and want to take a gamble on somebody. So yes, so maybe that deal's not a trade deadline deal though, but for the trade deadline's sake, I could see a team not panicking per se, but overpaying and paying a
Okay.
second.
I could see the appeal for a team acquiring Jordan Harris because you look at he's a puck mover, he's smart, he's a guy that on a bottom 7 team is a -1 for those teams that really focus on the plus minus column. He chips in a few points here and there. He's not gonna more often than not, there's not gonna be some big mistakes. Another player who plays a very honest game, who's mobile and will do well in the transition when off the rush and stuff like that. But I mean, you give me a second round pick for Jordan Harris, I take that all day, every day. But the team's not gonna pay a second. They're gonna, at most, I could see a late third for him, or he's a complimentary piece to a bit of a bigger deal.
Coming back, because I feel like you guys might have missed how this was supposed to go. Is it fair? Is it too high or too low? And then would you do it? So you would obviously do it, Vito, and you think it's a high, like it's the offer. In fact, the return is too high. You would have done it for a 30 then. Dave is kind of more at this point.
I do it because you need to move some bodies again, as I said. But I think two, I could see it happening. I mean, don't make me tap the sign.
More to the fair, perhaps, than the high, but also high. Ready. Okay, let's move to the next guy. Yoel Armia.
Oh boy.
Okay, here we go. Third round.
No, I'm just joking.
50% retained.
It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen.
Is because it's too high?
He's not gonna move. I just who is gonna take Yoel Armia, man? Like
I don't care who. I'm saying fictitiously, a team is saying, I'll give you a third if you keep 50% of his contract. Would you do it or not?
I would do it, obviously. And no,
obviously.
It's too high. Too high.
It's too high.
Oh, my turn? Yeah, he goes. He goes. And it sucks because it's going to affect whatever dealings that they might have for Jake Allen, let's say, because of the retention spot. But yeah, he goes. Third round pick and salary retained for one more year.
So both of these,
not gonna happen.
Both of these, you guys are right there. You want to do it, and we're suggesting that the return.
Don't make me tap the sign.
Here we go. Here's the sign. The return is too high for these players. That's what we're saying.
I think that the fans, these must be coming from Montreal fans.
Yes, for the most part, that's where we're coming up with these things.
If the Habs were a playoff team, and Yoel Armia played for the Anaheim Ducks and had the last 3 seasons of what he's had and has the contract he has, would you make a deal like that? Knowing that there's other players available. Like, again, I think we look at it through a lens of the Montreal Canadiens, and the Canadiens have Yoel Armia to trade. But there's a ton of Yoel Armia type options probably that other teams could go get that aren't as maddeningly inconsistent.
That's very fair. I think if that's also somewhere on the table, that would have been done already, but yes, I also think that it's high, and I would also do it. Okay, Josh Anderson. This one I don't even understand. Because, again,
well, that's recent. That's recent, but that's been coming out mainly because of certain sites have brought it up. Like I've seen it too, that Josh Anderson's name could be up, but if
he's obviously up. If he was up last year,
Yeah,
he's definitely up.
He's up.
But
here's the fun thing. We were talking last year about Andy, about how a first. Okay. Now what I found here, this just shows you what a year can do to somebody. Okay, here we go. Josh Anderson moved for a fourth, a B prospect, and you have to retain 50%.
Ooh.
No.
Your
I wouldn't do it.
I don't.
I wouldn't do it.
I don't do it. I don't do it. I think it's too low.
I think eventually you got to move Josh Anderson out of there, but I think you get more creative than that. And I think that it's not necessary to move him out. I mean, you could still make an argument that he has potential there, and you could still be on this team going forward. So I would not make that. Not so.
I would not make that move either.
I would not make that trade whatsoever. A fourth, a B prospect, and a what?
A B tier prospect, and you got to hold 50%.
Wow, Montreal Canadiens would have to retain 50% and have a salary retention spot used for the next 3 years. No, I keep Josh Anderson for sure on that. He can still bring, especially for that kind of package,
so
he can still bring something to the Montreal Canadiens, and I feel like they're going to give him one more shot next year to kind of like have a bounce back here. I'd rather devote every retention spot I can and retain as much salary as I can to move on from Gallagher. I'm sorry, Gallagher, we love you, but your contract is abysmal.
That is never, ever.
That's never going to happen. That's never going to happen. Now, I just want to say one thing about the whole Anderson thing that I thought was hilarious. Where I found this, there were a tremendous amount of comments. That package I just told you was the best that people were prepared to do. People were so upset with that guy who wrote that, or girl, or whomever, that they were like, I would do it for a seventh, no prospect. I would retain more. Like there is something with the fan base, at least in that particular comment section. They would have just done anything to move him, which I think is crazy.
It's a love thing again. It's an emotional reaction because Josh Anderson was finally the power forward that the Canadiens were going to get, right? And he finally answered all the questions, and then people just overtook him on the depth chart, and he just couldn't stay consistent, and he never took that extra step that you wanted to see with Josh Anderson. And so that's my issue. I think that a lot of people got emotionally attached to Josh Anderson because they really, really, really expected him to be something that he probably was never going to be. And unfortunately, the power forward that Josh Anderson is, it's like a little bit too late in how the NHL plays its games right now, in my opinion. I think that, a few years ago would have flown a little his style and his, he could have probably found a little bit more consistency, but it doesn't work that way anymore.
I disagree there, Dave.
Because
he still has the foot speed. It's not like he's a slow power forward like Lucic is or something like that. He has the speed. The problem is that he doesn't cut to the net the way that he used to. He doesn't pop his shoulder down and drive the net and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to risk it. Forget it. If I get hit, I get hit. He just doesn't do those things. But to go and he plays a very north-south game. And sadly, we've seen him when he rips a shot, he tends to miss the net, but then you put him in a skills competition and he goes 4 for 4. You know what I mean? It's just he's got the foot speed for this NHL. It's just he's not doing the things.
Foot speed, yes, yeah, but he's not doing what's necessary to get it done. And also, Would
you do it for a last place team?
The consistency,
and that's a question of his character. I don't want to say that. Like I think if you grab him and put him on a playoff team that's really battling, and you see him, he's a playoff guy. You throw him in a playoff team, you're gonna see the way that we saw him. And the things he was doing when the Montreal Canadiens went on that Stanley Cup run. But right now, it's a bottom 7 team 2 years in a row. And it's like, and he has a bit of a history with injuries. And it's like, why risk it?
Well, why risk it? You want to get paid. You want to play. You want to keep playing.
He's getting paid regardless. That's the NHL, baby.
Nah, man. I don't think that's 100% the issue there. I don't think it's
hardworking. I'll give him that. He's not sulking.
He's inconsistent, man. He's just wildly inconsistent.
He is inconsistent. That's fair.
That was been since day one. It's been his biggest flaw. It's why he didn't work well in Columbus. It's why they wanted to get rid of him. He's just inconsistent. He's one of those guys that he'll take games off. And it's just that's the sad part.
And unfortunately this year, many games off in a row, sadly. But I will say this, I won't let you guys off the hook on Anderson because he is a hot button topic. Then we all laugh at, of course, the deal that I found there on the social medias. What would it take for you to move him? this trade deadline?
A good prospect. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, a good young prospect, like and a pick someone. I don't know what round it would be. It would depend on what type of prospect you can get back.
And you're prepared to hold money on him or no?
No.
Ooh.
That's why I don't think it's going to get done. Like, I mean, if he provides enough intrigue for another team that you shouldn't have to eat salary on him, in my opinion. You can't just keep eating salary on everybody. Like, you're going to keep.
They can only do it for one more guy. So that's a fact.
But that's what I mean. So like Josh Anderson is one of those higher level guys you shouldn't have to retain salary on. Sorry, get another team involved to retain a salary if you want. Just not. No.
Okay. Let's move to Savard.
I didn't even get to answer.
Well, you've talked a lot already. We're moving, and I want to. It's been a lot on Anderson.
I was actually going to say trade Andy problem for problem with the team, but okay, that's all right. Let's move on.
What problem?
What problem?
What do you mean? What problem?
Well, name me a guy.
$5.5 million player. Who's
name me a guy.
Give me somebody who's got. I would give you a guy. I would look at maybe making a deal for somebody like Anthony Manta. He's got a year. He's got a bit less term. He's similar in cap range. Can make it work. The problem is
why would you do that for the Canadiens?
I wouldn't do it.
Something like
That's
that. Or
change for the sake of change. It's
or the other deal. The other thing is getting a third team involved. That would be
to take it. Yeah.
Okay. You got your piece. Can we move on now to Savard, please? Thank you.
Wow.
David Savard. Mm-hmm. Straight up for a late first.
Yes. 100%.
Straight up. Nothing added.
Never going to happen. Yes. I don't think it'll happen, but well, I mean, I'll never say never.
It literally did happen to him before, but okay.
Well, I know, and it was why, like, people kind of,
Yeah. We all made the same face too when it happened.
And then he hasn't really improved since. So I mean, he's been okay, but he hasn't really like lit the world on fire. So why would it be another team?
So he wants to stay.
What is he? Fifth in the league in block shots, second, third,
something like that.
Top five.
Yeah.
Okay, but you could get that probably.
He's a solid veteran. I'll make the case a bit. He's a solid veteran. He has a Stanley Cup. He has lots of playoff experience. You know what you're getting with him. He can definitely be a 3-4, more a 4 than a 3 realistically. On a really good team. And from what we hear, Kent Hughes is like, we are not interested. You want him? You're really going to have to pay. Like a lot. Mm-hmm. Like a lot. So a first, in that context, is almost like on the lower side of what would need to happen in order for him to move, according to what we're hearing, right? So you're saying if a first is offered with nothing else, 100% move him.
Yeah, of course.
Chris Tanev went for what he went for, and and when you're looking at that, and you look at all of the advanced stats and all of the stuff, Savard's ahead of him on that.
Savard, I would take Savard. Actually,
he's ahead of him, and he's got the Stanley Cup and all of that stuff. So when you look at it that way, if Tanev went for that price, you'd have to think that Savard goes for a little bit more. So if a team comes out and says, "Hey, I'm willing to offer you a late first for him," you jump on.
Yeah, I don't see David Savard being more of an asset than Chris Tanev. I think in theory, maybe on paper, but not in practice. I'm sorry, I just don't. I don't agree with that whatsoever.
On paper, he has better stats across the board, I think, than perhaps one or two sections. He has the Stanley Cup. He has the experience. What exactly does Chris Tanev offer that you think that he's that much more valuable than David Savard is?
I just in terms of seeing them play, man. Like David Savard, to me, he's playing on a team right now. I don't know. I don't see it. It's crazy to me.
Okay.
Like I don't think David Savard is worth a first round pick. To me, Chris Tanev would be a better choice if I was running an NHL team. I'd rather have Chris Tanev than David Savard, but that's just me.
Okay. I think a lot of people.
Cue the comments on YouTube, no, Dave. No. That's why you're not running an NHL team.
Yeah. Well, of course.
I should.
That's a given. Okay. So we're all gonna say that. Well, all of us. You guys are suggesting yes, you move him for a first, and it's probably an overpay. It's on the high. This isn't fair. You think he's actually it's worth less because Tanev comparable was less, and therefore Dave thinks Tanev is better, and so deducing, of course. You think it's an overpay. Is that what I'm hearing?
Chris Tanev, or you mean for David Savard?
Yeah, David Savard. Yeah, the
I
first
think-
you're saying is an overpay.
I think it's probably an overpay. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not saying that Chris Tanev deal was great either. Like Chris Tanev's not like I'm not in love with. I don't want people to say that I'm in love with Chris Tanev, and I think that he's I wouldn't want him on my team necessarily anyway. I'm just saying if I had the choice, I'd probably go side a little bit more with Chris Tanev.
Very fair. Okay, the last two I think are pretty interesting. The last two. So we'll go with one. So Allen, of course. Everybody's been talking about Allen forever, and it would seem like the real life direction this is going is we're going to have 3 goalies to the end of the year. I don't think we're going to see movement, but regardless. So somebody said
most likely to leave though.
probably. So somebody said, somebody said we'll just for anything. Literally, they kept writing anything at all to end the 3 goalie carousel. I don't know about anything personally, so I'm taking what another person wrote that had a bunch of comments. A late second, hold 50%.
Again with the hold, I'm not a big fan of the hold.
These are hold. Most of these have hold. It seems like that's
Find another team to hold. I don't know, man.
Mock trades. I keep saying trades.
I think that they're going to have to retain because most of the contenders are up against the cap. So no matter what, they're going to have to retain. And at the same time, something to keep in mind is that even if they retain on Allen, yeah, they're done. They have no more retention spots up for the rest of this season. But then Eddie's contract comes off the books, and they have another retention spot for the offseason. So they're going to just balance it out that way. But for a late second for Jake Allen, I do that to retain salary. You end the carousel, you still get a very good pick of some kind. It's still something it's an asset that you could use. Well, it's still not. It's currency. It's currency that you could use for anything else. A second round pick is far more appealing than a fifth, sixth, or what the other person said, which is anything. I think that we're still caught up and stuck with the value of Jake Allen last year. And I just don't think that there's a huge list of teams anymore that are lining up for Jake Allen right now. And I just don't know how many are going to be willing to give a second round pick right now. But one thing's for sure, this whole 3 goalie carousel has hurt the Montreal Canadiens this year, has hurt the development of Caden Primo if the intention was to keep him. There were rumors that there was almost a deal in place for Caden Primo at a point. I do think that he's going to stick to his guns. He's not going to just move Allen for the sake of moving him. But if it is for a second round pick and you have to retain 50%, you have to think of it. You have to really. I'm not thinking I'm pulling the trigger on that, but you gotta. If they're enamored of Jake Allen, they gotta think about it.
If it's a think about, you're suggesting that that's probably to a fair deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's a debate. It's a toss.
If the Montreal Canadiens are retaining salary, yes, it's a fair deal both ways. It's the only way you can make it happen because, like I said, the majority of contenders are up against the cap, and you're going to have to retain. The only time you're not retaining is if it's you're trading somebody like that's between 800,000 and 1.5 million. Then chances are you don't have to retain because by the time you get to the trade deadline, that they owe what, like 700, 800,000 to that player left. So.
I kind of agree with everything Vito said, to be honest. I think that's a fair assessment. I think it's a fair trade value. Would Ken Hughes do it, though? I mean, you got to believe that maybe he had a better offer at some point this season, maybe earlier in the year, if teams really were calling for Jake Allen. It's just, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to happen. I mean, I think I would do it as well. I'd be leaning more towards doing it, and I think that it's one of the fair deals there because you do get something back in front of Jake Allen. You kind of go back to your fan base and say, hey, look, with this 3 goalie system, I got a second round pick out of it. It wasn't the worst, and you eat a bit of salary. I'm not a fan of wasting that salary on a Jake Allen deal that's going to bring back a second round pick. I get you have to move the body, but it's such a bad situation for them to be in. They should have never been in this situation. So it just sucks.
They are.
To talk about. I know. It's the sad reality. So I would say it's fair, and I would probably do it.
Okay, I agree. I think it's fair too. The last one, this one is a little bit more of a stretch because I definitely don't think he gets moved whatsoever. And at the same time, people, again, we talked about this last time. They either hate this guy or they love this guy. There seems to be no middle ground. So Mike Matheson.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Matheson is apparently, to this individual, they would want a A-tier prospect, A-tier, a late second, and a sixth. Don't know why the sixth. Why not a seventh? Why not a fifth? But a sixth.
I wouldn't
That's
do
what
it.
they want.
Does he mention what position that A-tier prospect?
Forward, actually. Forward A-tier prospect. A forward.
I wouldn't.
I could tell you this. I don't do it.
Me neither.
I don't
It's
do it.
not enough.
There's just no point of trading.
You don't move him, or the deal is not enough.
So
like why?
I know what Mike Matheson brings me today. That A-tier prospect, we're probably gonna have to wait a year or two to see what that person can bring. Then add in another year or two to adjust to the NHL. Next thing you know, it's been 4 years for Mike Matheson, whose value is probably gonna go up closer to a trade deadline in his last year, and it's gonna be worth considerably more than somebody that I'm gambling on right now. At the same time, what is Mike Matheson? How many 60 plus or almost 60 plus point defensemen? I said that in the previous episode. Have the Montreal Canadiens or teams have that are under $5 million? I get it. Trade when the player's on the high. But for what? It's not like we have somebody knocking on the door right now that says can take Mike Matheson's spot. If we had that, then it would say, yeah, okay, move him, get this A prospect, because Lane Hudson is there right now to take over the offensive duties in the first power play and all those things. But we don't have that right now. They don't. So you're gonna have him. So now you trade him. You trade, yeah, but it's gonna take time for Lane Hudson too to get adjusted to the NHL. You can't assume that he's gonna come in.
You can't just toss him into that first.
I'm not saying no, but I'm just saying if somebody's prepared to offer you this, because again, it comes back to the question of you guys don't do it because you think that he's too important to the team and therefore you shouldn't do it. But is the value fair or is the value not enough?
It depends on who the A-tier prospect is, to be honest. I mean, it'll depend, to be honest. I'll say, because the value does seem intriguing, right? If you could get an A-plus prospect and a second-round pick, the sixth-round pick I don't care about, it's decent, man. I would consider it. The problem is what you look at is like, who's going to fill his role on the Canadiens, man? I'm all about moving bodies away. But you can't move your top guys if you don't have a plan to you need a little bit of that veteran presence. He fits well with the team. He's a guy from here. It's a good story. He's only progressing. Let him progress a little bit more with this club and see what he's at. So I would not do it. And I think that the value ultimately at the end of the day, while it's intriguing, not enough.
I think it sends the wrong message to the players that are there, that are putting in their 100% effort and are going with this rebuild. Like that you're just sending away every player that comes in. That's a veteran guy that can give us, that could calm things in the back end or in the front. Get rid of them. If the Montreal Canadiens trade Matheson and Savard, what the heck is happening to that defensive?
Well, I don't think they trade both.
They're not doing anybody any favors either. Another guy you didn't mention, like Kovacevic, I could see him moving. I could see a team, knocking on the door.
Well,
saying,
okay,
hey,
so I wasn't going to put everybody on the team.
I know.
Technically,
I'm just
almost
saying,
everybody on the team is potentially to be moved. So, as a final question here, do you believe there will be movement at all, or there's a possibility that Kent Hughes stays pat and doesn't move anybody? Because there's no need to.
No, I think at the very least, there's going to be, if Montreal's not able to move any of the players we mentioned, at the very least, they're going to act like a third team and retain salary to facilitate a deal for somebody else. There's going to be at least that happening for Montreal.
Okay, but put that aside. I'm talking about bodies in, bodies out kind of thing.
Yes, if I had to make a prediction on who I think is going to move, Allen aside, because I really think they're going to really try to resolve this sooner rather than later. I think Jordan Harris is the candidate to go.
Okay, Dave.
Yeah, I would agree. Jordan Harris, Kovacevic, as I mentioned, I think he's probably the most likely to go in my mind. Looking at this team, he's a easy guy to move that can get a late round pick, yeah. And if they can move Jake Allen, figure out a way to make it work. I think it'd be a failure if we're coming on Saturday and they didn't Saturday morning or whatever, and they haven't done anything. You know what I mean? I think ultimately, at the end of the day, you're a rebuilding team. You're in year whatever of 3, 2, 3, whatever you want to qualify it as of your rebuild. I think you have to start making moves. He's already started, but you have to continue making moves. You can't just stand pat on a trade deadline. I think that would be crazy. You try and make your moves, and you got, even if it means coming down a little bit on your price in order to make some moves to clear up some space, I would do it.
Very good. And so we've posed the question like we like to do all the time here at the end of the episode. For those who made it to the end, thank you so much for sticking with us. And of course, I'll throw it out right now. Please like, subscribe if you haven't already. We really appreciate it. What would you guys, or would you guys be comfortable if Kent Hughes stayed pat and didn't make any moves because he didn't get his price for the players, and we come on Saturday like Dave said, and no moves were done? Are you going to be cool with that, or is it going to be more of a fail and no, absolutely there has to be players that are going out? And if so, let us know who you think it's going to be and what you think it's going to be for. We're always happy to go, and you probably noticed that we go and reply to the majority of our comments that we get there. We're happy and like to engage with you guys, so please let us know. And it's going to be probably the next time we get together after trade deadline. So we'll see who's right, who's wrong, which one of our analysts here.
Unless a big trade does happen, then we'll have a reaction video.
Yeah, if something insane happens, I'm sure we'll find the time to get together. But in all likelihood, knowing our schedule, we'll probably reconvene sometime after the trade deadline and do a little postmortem of that. But until then, please let us know. We'll be very happy to read through those and talk with you guys there. So for Dave and Vito, I'm Matt, and this was Get Pucked.